Welcome to the WWE Podcast, your place for the most passionate wrestling analysis on the web.
Just turn Roman heel. What is WWE waiting for?
When other wrestling podcasts put you to sleep, you can count on the WWE Podcast to keep you engaged and asking for more.
I've been watching wrestling for over 20 years, and that was one of the best matches I've ever seen.
This is unlike any other wrestling analysis. So without any further delay, let's get the show started right now.
Hey everybody, welcome to the WWE Podcast. It is December 1st, 2019 on this very snowy December 1st, 2019. Of course, that depends where you live. I'm from upstate New York, and they're predicting a foot and a half of snow here. So winter's now here, right on cue with December 1st, and it lasts up here through April. So we have got quite a ways to go. And those of you that are not in New York or the northern hemisphere, really, have it good right now. I mean, if you're below like Pennsylvania, Virginia, if you're below that, I'd say Virginia is kind of the demarcation line for whether you hate yourself in the winter and question why you live where you live. Anybody below that line is probably going, what are you talking about? It's like 50 degrees here. Or if you're down in Florida, I really, really despise you, and I'm also jealous. So anyway, enough of the snow and cold and nonsense and scraping your car off and warming your car up every single time you got to leave and go somewhere. All of that, and dark nights and dark mornings and depression. Oh, it's lovely. But as a kid, you love it, right? As a kid, you loved it, and I still look for my school district on TV. It's just a habit that will forever be ingrained in my DNA, even though it has nothing to do with my schedule from a day-to-day basis anymore. But as a kid, man, you live for this. This is what you're here for. This is what you're existing for. Are days like this, and the snowstorm fell on a Sunday, and it's going to last all day tomorrow. So many of us are getting a extended weekend that probably spanned 4 or 5 days now, and I don't think my work will be closed. It's going to take a movement of Congress or an act of Congress to make it happen. So anyway, moving on to some other things that you're interested in and why you're here. This is the WWE Podcast. So what I'm going to be announcing right now is a Cyber Monday deal. You say, well, what does it have to do with anything? Well, I run another feed on Patreon.com, and on there I offer ad-free listening and shout-outs and coming on the show. So what's happening is, starting at midnight tonight, there will be a Cyber Monday sale for the Hall of Fame level only, the Hall of Fame tier, I should say. And if you're not familiar with Patreon, there's a bunch of tiers, 3 or 4 of them rather, that I have, that you can get more and more goodies the higher the tier you go. It starts at $1 and it goes all the way up to $50 a month for the Hall of Fame level, but with this Cyber Monday deal, which again is lasting 1 day only, I'm cutting it in half. So that price will be only $25 a month. And you may ask, well, what in the hell am I going to get for $25 a month? Let me tell you. What you're going to get for $25 a month is ad-free access to the entire WWE podcast library. No ads, no plugs, nothing. It's a streaming experience that is unlike any other, with no ads at all. Specific and exclusive blogs that I have never posted on my website or anywhere else. You're going to get a shout out on the show, a video shout out on my Twitter feed, which is at the WWE Podcast, and you can get yourself on this show at a time and date in which you deem and it works for you, and you can come on and we can discuss any topic wrestling related that you like. You'll drive the conversation. You'll host or co-host a show all on your own with myself. And again, so lots of goodies, and so hopefully you take advantage of it. It's not a sale I do throughout the year, and I'm just saying I only do it once. This is literally once a year, and it's the top tier of the Patreon feed, and it's 50% off. So it's only happening for 1 day, again, all day tomorrow, and then it's gone. So head on over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. And if that sale doesn't interest you, you can always get an ad-free listening experience just for $1 and get the entire library to you and access to you on any mobile device, anything for just $1. So, all right, well, let's move on And we're going to get to the Smackdown review. Originally, this was going to be a WWE Weekend review. I had a couple of co-hosts who are feeling under the weather, and we're busy, and so no big deal. This is going to be a Smackdown review. And then Tuesday, I should have a co-host. Wednesday, it'll be Wrestling Nostalgia. And then back to your NXT and AEW reviews on Thursday, Friday. And then, of course, co-hosting on Saturday. So, getting back on schedule after the Thanksgiving weekend through a loop for everybody. And so just want to give you guys a heads up, which, by the way, you can follow us on Twitter at the WWE Podcast. Alrighty, well, so let's talk about SmackDown. Let's talk about SmackDown Live. And I'm going to talk about the very end of the show first, because I think that's the biggest story here. Throughout the show, Bray Wyatt challenged Daniel Bryan to play again. And again, reminded us that Daniel Bryan knows what he did. So I would assume WWE will eventually remind us all what he did. And if you remember, Daniel Bryan was a member of the Wyatt family, only to turn on them. So I think that is what he's referencing back in 2014 or so. So that is those are my thoughts. And so Daniel Bryan was challenged by Bray Wyatt throughout the show, and Daniel Bryan was questioning whether he should not accept the Fiend's, or really Bray Wyatt's, offer to play again. And even The Miz showed concern to Daniel Bryan. Eventually, Daniel Bryan comes out at the end of the show and really announces that the Yes Movement's back, but it's because of us that revived it. So, whatever. It's back. The Yes Movement is back. And then the Fiend, after Daniel Bryan accepts, shows up under the ring, pulls Daniel Bryan under the ring, and under the ring is now referred to as the depths of hell. I mean, Undertaker's done it. Kane's done it. Probably a couple others have too. It's just called the depths of hell. It's not under the ring. Fine. I know it's just after a while it just goes, okay, yeah, we get it. But so Daniel Bryan gets pulled underneath the ring, and interestingly, the Fiend starts pulling handfuls of hair off, presumably of Daniel Bryan. And so many people are interested to see what Daniel Bryan looks like next week. Very interesting. I don't know if they'll go with the shaved head look or just a haircut, but I would assume if you're pulling out hair, you got to leave bald patches. You can't just cut your hair. I would assume it's shave your head, or it looks like, I don't know, Mick Foley circa 1998 when he'd pull out his own hair. So I would assume that is what the look he's going with. And you know what? I'm interested, because Daniel Bryan is in need of a change. People talked about how, throughout the show, that the Fiend changes people. Look what he did to Finn Balor. Look what he did to Seth Rollins. Both recently turned heel. That was what they're referencing. And Daniel Bryan said he was changed, but he was changed because he realized what he should have been all along. And that's basically the Yes Movement leader. And now he is saying that the Fiend has changed him, and now he physically may change. And you know what? Again, I'm fine with it, because I think it's time that Daniel Bryan's look gets a bit of a shakeup. I think it's time Daniel Bryan's look gets a bit of a new coat of paint, so to speak. We've seen Daniel Bryan look generally the same since 2013, 2014. Generally. He's growing his hair out a little bit more here and there. All the whole goat face thing, all that. But generally, he's been the same. So this could be a nice change of pace for Daniel Bryan as he goes into TLC to face the Fiend. Now, do I expect Daniel Bryan to win that match? The answer is a resounding no. No, I don't. And specifically, now that the Fiend has his own championship belt, when they make a championship belt for a competitor, more often than not, that's a signal that belt is staying there for a while, hence the investment and time it takes to generate that belt, create that belt, build that belt, sell that belt to WWE fans. So there's a lot that goes into it. It doesn't always happen. Look what they did with Daniel Bryan with the hemp belt. He held that belt for several months until dropping it. So could I see this belt sticking on the shoulders of Bray Wyatt for quite some time? The answer is yes. I could see the Fiend carrying this championship for quite a while. And so, anyway, those are just a couple of cues and a couple of things that I noticed from some of the screenshots. And again, the belt that the Fiend presented and were shown was just in a quick glimpse in the video. It wasn't a long form, here's what the belt looks like. You had to stop the video, and it's all over the internet, and you can see what it looks like. So, again, I think regardless of the fact that Daniel Bryan's guaranteed to lose at TLC, I think Daniel Bryan will be better off for it, given the fact that this is an indicator and a catalyst for change in his character and his look. Not necessarily the end goal here being for his character to win the championship. I think the end goal for his character should be to change and adapt and just feel a little bit different from the Daniel Bryan we've seen for the last, really, 6 years. Yes, he had a couple of years in which he didn't compete due to concussions and so forth, but he's still looked the same even as SmackDown general manager. So, encouraging signs for Daniel Bryan, who is the next up in line for Bray Wyatt. Okay, well, I just want to give you guys my thoughts on the final segment of the show, because that is the point that most people have about SmackDown. The biggest takeaway point and takeaway segment was the last segment. So, as it should be. So, of course, lots of other good things going on here. And yes, I'm actually not complaining about this. I enjoyed this. I think it was well done. So, if I didn't compliment this segment, I should. Was it the best thing I've ever seen? No. But I'd say it was good. It was good. I like Daniel Bryan as the focus here. Him not speaking and just... It creates a lot of anticipation, wondering what he's going to say. And Daniel Bryan's been doing that since he was with Eric Rowan, when Eric Rowan was the culprit of the rundown of Roman Reigns. Daniel Bryan went silent for a lot of the program and broke his silence, and then went silent again, and you didn't know where he was. I mean, so Daniel Bryan's been doing that silent thing for a while, and I'm liking it. And so, again, I think this is well done. I think this is a better matchup for The Fiend than Seth Rollins. So, all right. Well, let's get to the actual show itself and start from the beginning, where we had Roman Reigns come out. And we got to listen to the wonderful voice of Michael Cole saying, "Big dog," which immediately makes me want to change the channel and simultaneously put my fist on his mouth. And again, I know he's being directed to say it, that he has to say that in that way to generate artificial excitement for it and to try to generate authentic belief that that is a true given nickname and not one that was just all of a sudden dropped on our lap, that actually he is deserving of the big dog name. He is not. He is still not. It feels weird. And Michael Cole saying that just every single time, he can't just say Roman Reigns. He has to say the cute, forced, artificially assigned nickname of the big dog rather than just, hey, it's Roman Reigns. I don't understand WWE's obsession with nicknames. They can't just say the name of the person. They have to give them silly nicknames that sometimes work, no doubt that the names work, but sometimes even when the names work, it's oversaturation of the nickname, forcing it down our throat, and it sometimes supersedes their actual given name. I don't like it. Everything has to be cute nicknames. You can't just have somebody have a regular name. I mean, look, case in point, Shorty G. I mean, all of a sudden he's Shorty G, the underdog. You know, just a month ago, he was, just good old Chad Gable. I mean, so Okay, no, let's move on. Let's get to SmackDown. So Roman comes out and wishes everybody a Thanksgiving and talks about what Thanksgiving means to him. You know, what Thanksgiving has meant forever, and we're not going to get into, is it a racist holiday and all that. Okay, we're not going into the origins of, well, the natives, you don't call them Indians anymore. You can't call them Indians, even though Indians has no actual racial discrimination or racial undertones to it. That's actually a term for indigenous people. You can't say Indians. Good Lord, in 2019, they're just called the native people. I mean, whatever. So, God, I hate 2019 is driven on feelings rather than facts. Anybody else notice that? People have thrown away science, thrown away just general knowledge and believability and just common damn sense for making sure feelings aren't hurt. It's just ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So anyway, let's move along here. I promise we're getting damn SmackDown. So he comes out and, wishes everyone a Thanksgiving, what it means to him. And what I was getting to there is that's what Thanksgiving means to 95% of people. So I guess that's the point. He's supposed to be relatable. Oh, me too. That's how I view Thanksgiving. As if that's an original assumption and summation of what the meaning of Thanksgiving is. Good God. Can you tell I'm not a fan of the Roman Reigns babyface character? It has not, like Roman Reigns has made strides in terms of reaction. I don't know how or why. And by the way, they were in Birmingham, Alabama this week, of which they mentioned once, maybe twice. I think Roman Reigns mentioned it once, and you got it once at the top of the show. And maybe Big E announced it because he has to as part of his shtick when the New Day comes out. But notice how big of a difference it is when they're in a big market, trumping their horns, and when they're in a smaller market and put a tail between their legs and just go, yeah, we're in Birmingham. Anyway, I mean, it's so small of them. Anyway, so Roman Reigns comes out and is the guy that we're all supposed to relate to now because he has the same meaning we do. And he talks about how SmackDown kicked ass at Survivor Series and then brings up Baron Corbin. And then Reigns calls out Corbin and, Corbin comes out to the stage. And interestingly, Roman Reigns asked Corbin to come out because he demanded an apology. What? Why? Isn't this something heels do for baby faces? The logic is not here. I mean, I don't understand why Corbin owes Reigns an apology when Reigns is the one that actually speared him and got his own teammate eliminated, and yet we're supposed to go, well, I guess Corbin deserved it. But if you're the team captain and you're about the team and not about yourself, you should not have done that and cost an elimination for your team. That is actually a selfish thing to do, basically admitting that I can take the outnumber the odds of being outnumbered more than I can take my ego allowing you to be on this team. So does anybody see the backwards logic here? And then Roman Reigns comes out and demands an apology from Corbin. When is the last time a babyface demanded an apology? You have heels do it all the time, and they never get one. It's just par for the course, and that's fine. But a babyface asking for one? Seriously? Ugh. Oh, God. So anyway, Corbin comes out, and he blames Reigns for betraying the team, which is actually true. Seriously. And it blames Reigns for being eliminated. That's also true. And then Corbin takes shots at Alabama because that's just what heels do, is run down the town you're in, which is nothing more than superficial heat, specifically and localized to the location you're in, rather than trying to get generalized, we all hate you, even at home heat. Do you think the people at home are sitting going, oh, that SOB's trashing Alabama? Because 95% of us that are watching are not in or from Alabama, so the answer is a resounding no. But they continue to go for the cheap heat, for the perception that this heel is indeed over by just garnering a reaction that is nothing more than a reflex of anybody who trashes the town you're in, unless you agree with them. Maybe you agree that, hey, my town, it sucks. I mean, but it seems to just continue to work for heels to just trash the town or the football team. That's just the go-tos, right? Okay. But it ends in a match with Robert Roode, who ends up facing Reigns instead of Corbin. And then Roode comes out with Ziggler in his corner, and we get Roman Reigns versus Robert Roode. So Ziggler and Corbin are both at ringside. Roode controls the opening moments until he tries to going to the top rope, and Reigns uppercuts Roode down to the floor. Then they brawl at ringside, and Reigns turns it around with a leaping clothesline. Roode stops Reigns' momentum with a blockbuster off the middle of the rope for a 2 count, and then looks for the glorious DDT. And then Reigns gets a sit-down powerbomb for a 2 count, and then looks for the Superman punch. But Ziggler pulls Roode out of the ring, and Reigns runs around the ring and drops Ziggler at ringside, and leads to Roode blindsiding Reigns and slamming him into the ring steps. So before we continue, I would like to say, I really enjoyed this match. As much as I just completely destroyed Roman Reigns' babyface character and logic, and the fact that they have 5 effing years later decided to not turn this guy heel is an absolute befuddlement. It's a befuddlement. I mean, you have everybody else that is up for grabs, but this guy is somehow bulletproof and immune, and anybody that mentions it's getting fired on the spot. I really believe that that is what Vince McMahon has said to the creative. I really believe that. That creative is just, they aren't asking or bringing it up or suggesting it for fear of losing their jobs, even though it's the right damn thing to do. All right. Well, so again, I loved this match. I thought it was very good. I mean, it was physical. I think it was Robert Roode's, best match that he's had in recent memory. And Ziggler is also a good heater for Robert Roode and takes bumps as well as anybody in the business. We know how good Dolph Ziggler is. We do. This guy is a damn master in the ring and can take bumps. Like, it was just born into him. So, all right, well, let's continue here. So, back in the ring, Roode looks for a shot off the top, but Reigns punches him out of midair, which looked actually really good. That was sold very well by Robert Roode, and looks for a spear, but Roode catches him and gives him a spine buster for a 2 count. Corbin throws his scepter to Roode to use. Corbin distracts the ref, but their plan doesn't work as Reigns gives a Superman punch. God, I hate even saying that. It's such a childish name. Such a like, I feel like I'm 6 years old playing a video game in which the name of the move is a Superman punch. It just sounds so corny. I mean, oh God. Everything about Roman Reigns' babyface's character just gets under my damn skin, and it's starting to more because I know the path in which WWE has now put him on. And he's on the path to capture the Universal Championship. I mean, he just is. He's on a collision course with the Fiend. End of subject. And you know who's going over on that one. But I hope the audience completely rejects him outright when he gains that championship. I hope they destroy the Roman Reigns progress that WWE and Vince McMahon think they have made under the noses of fans who suddenly don't even know or realize that they are cheering for Roman Reigns or just being silent and not booing him because, well, they've taken him out of the championship picture, so they don't even notice that they're suddenly cheering for him. We've got them. And then once he has the belt, go, wait a minute, what the hell's going on here? Boo! That is my hope and my fantasy for what happens. All right. Well, Roman gives a whole boatload of Superman punches as he does, and spears Roode for the 3 count. So Reigns wins, but after the match, again, this segment literally went on for 30 minutes. I mean, I'm not complaining. I think they're all parties involved were very good here, but Ziggler and Corbin attack Reigns in the ring, and Reigns is able to fight them off. And then Roode nails Reigns from behind with the scepter, and then grabs a steel chair, and Reigns moves. Reigns gives Roode a Superman punch. Don't worry, the third one of the match, you got to have a minimum of 3 per show because it's the most unavoidable move ever. That's complete sarcasm if you didn't feel it in my voice. And then we get Reigns throwing some office chairs on top of Roode after Roode was speared through the fan barricade. Ziggler comes back over, but Reigns nails him with the steel steps and flips over the announce desk on top of Roode. And then we see Corbin retreating to the back as Reigns notices him. So I was fine with this. I don't dislike this segment. I think all parties did a good job to very good. I loved the match with Robert Roode and Roman Reigns. Again, as I've said, I just despise the Roman Reigns character because it is the embodiment of everything that is wrong with babyface creation from the minds of WWE, a.k.a. Vince McMahon Creative. I'll leave it at that. Okay. So we get another Bray Wyatt Firefly Funhouse, and saying that he's a lot to be thankful for. He holds up the Universal Championship. He says that sharing is caring, and the Fiend has a belt too, which we saw. It's damn cool. Looks almost like human skin. Good stuff. Good stuff. And basically taunts Bryan to play with him again, and all he has to do is let him in. So good stuff. All right, then we got a pre-tape promo from Sheamus, who is making his first on-air appearance in quite some time. And Sheamus calls out the current crop of stars on SmackDown and says he's going to run through everybody. And pretty generic. I mean, I don't think anyone's buying tickets in mass droves to come to SmackDown to make sure they catch a glimpse of Sheamus. Sheamus is a guy that, look, he's a good soldier. He puts on good matches. He's a big guy. I guess his stupid look, as you know, the fans were chanting, "You look stupid," is gone. The bar is dissolved, so it's just Sheamus being regular Sheamus. I don't know, but it was just a reintroduction to the audience, and I'm willing to let it go and see what happens. Sheamus just has never done it for me. I just feel very bland about Sheamus. I don't feel one way strong or the other. It's just kind of like, oh, all right, Sheamus is out here. I just feel nothing. I've never felt anything for Sheamus, ever. He's just nothing. I mean, it's just like an empty soul for me. Okay, we got Ali versus Drew Gulak. So not a long match. Gulak controlled the opening moments. Ali was able to dodge some shots and fire back some of his own. Gulak slams him down for the middle ropes and tries to keep him grounded. Ali fought out of it and threw Gulak into the corner. Ali hits a tornado DDT and then follows up with a 450 splash for the 3 count. Very decisive win for Ali. I think an important win to get a little bit of momentum back after losing at Survivor Series as part of the team on SmackDown. I'm fine with it. Again, it was nothing more than just kind of like, Ali's still here to play. You know, he's still here to play. And the latest phrase from Michael Cole is, a very game so-and-so. I guess that's the new cool hip word that Michael Cole is using to describe anybody that faces anybody and loses. Seriously. I mean, that's just what they did. He replaced the word gutsy with game. And I appreciate that he has gotten rid of the gutsy word and gutsy phraseology that he's been using for everyone that takes everyone to the limit, because that's how every match has to be structured, is that nobody, this whole roster can't be vertically stacked. Everybody can beat anybody on any given night, which is a bunch of garbage and is a terrible way to design a roster and a terrible way to get people over. And you can't create momentum for anybody when anybody can beat anybody and it's trade wins back and forth. So this whole idea that it's a gutsy win or it's some, a very game Dolph Ziggler or whoever. I mean, I know they're trying to get talent over, but sometimes you have to get the other talent over by the one who actually, won the match at the expense of the guy or gal that lost the match. Instead of always trying to make them on equal footing, you gotta give the person that won more credit. That's just how it is in any sport. Any. So, okay. Boy, I'm on side rants today. All right. Let's see. Where are we going? We go to a WWE shop promo from Heavy Machinery, who are now just relegated to, comedy segments, and Vince McMahon looking at Otis as the big, funny, jolly guy that's, a younger knockoff of Santa Claus, I think. I mean, that's just what he does. I wouldn't be surprised if next week Vince McMahon brings Otis out and, closer to Christmas, having Otis play Santa Claus. I mean, I really would not be surprised, because I feel like that's how Vince McMahon views Otis. And it's a damn shame that he's got those comedic elements to him, and he really is Heavy Machinery. I mean, let's be honest. He is Heavy Machinery. No disrespect to Tucker, but let's be honest. So Otis, I think, is a guy that is credible. He can go in the ring. He can do some athletic stuff. They were a very formidable, dangerous tag team in NXT, and then they come up to the main roster, and sooner than later, Vince McMahon goes, look at this guy with the big gut, and takes that and goes, this guy's going to be comedy. And yeah, he can be funny at times, but they're really, really magnifying that part of him when that should be a side reaction to him. That should not be the focal point of his character, and it is, and it's ridiculous. Look what they did with what did he eat? The pancakes with New Day backstage, and he was involved in some kind of food eating contest months back. It's just one of those Vince McMahonisms. He just doesn't get it and sees a little bit of comedy in somebody and then runs with it, and I don't need it. And this is again, Heavy Machinery just being delegated or relegated for assignment here at a WWE shop promo. So, all right, let's move on. Sasha Banks and Bayley come out to the ring to address the women of SmackDown. They get on the mic and talk about the SmackDown locker room letting them down at Survivor Series, and that they are the role models and leaders. And then the rest of the roster are the weak links. Yeah, the entire women's roster is the weak link. So Sasha trashes her Survivor Series teammates, and then Lacey Evans interrupts. She gets on the mic and says that she just finished preparing a Thanksgiving meal for 36 people. Why do we need to know the number of people? Why is that even an important... That shouldn't even be a part of the... Like, I don't understand why we need to know... And that's not even realistic that you prepared a Thanksgiving meal for 36 people. It's just weird. So now she has to deal with Sasha, and Bayley says that they're not leaders, and then wouldn't trust them to lead the chicken dance at the garden party. What? We all know what the chicken dance is, but if this is a move to get Lacey Evans as a babyface, who the F is relating to that line? The chicken dance at the garden party. I guess that was supposed to be comedic and not taken literally. Whatever. She says that they're blaming everyone else for their failures, and SmackDown needs a better locker room leader like Lacey. Lacey then gives Sasha the woman's right and knocks her down with the right hand. Bayley doesn't do anything, and Lacey leaves. That was the more interesting part to me. Bayley stood there. This badass heel turn Bayley that they've done jack with, and it's just why even turn her heel if you're just going to leave her as a heel and let her sit there spinning her wheels? But that's another conversation. I like the face turn by Lacey, I guess. And I say I guess because I don't know if the fans are really going to take to her. Her character is not easily likable. Her character has a lot of regressive and just kind of annoying tendencies. So I don't know how they're just going to flip her face just because it's Sasha on the other end of the ring. I think they could end up getting an opposite reaction here if they go one-on-one. I know it's not for a championship, but they got to be careful here because Sasha has the respect and the years, whereas Lacey is still kind of the newcomer. But I guess let's move on. But interesting that Bayley didn't do anything, so I don't know if that leads to them breaking up again. I hope not. I don't need a Sasha Bayley anything. I need them to be nothing then together. They just need each other right now. All right. So we get a very weird segment of the Firefly Funhouse after Bryan was backstage, again asked if he was going to accept Bray's challenge. And Bray talks to his big puppet, Huskus, about Thanksgiving, and he tells the puppet how he can change, just like how Daniel Bryan can change. And Wyatt says you just have to follow these rules, and he introduces a rap song of how to pull up your pants and do the Muscle Man dance. The screen cuts to a shot of Bryan watching the puppet and rapping, and Bryan doesn't look impressed. On the rap video, the Wyatt says to let him in, and don't let the reptilians or the triangle folk. The song ends, and we'll go back to Bryan, who doesn't seem impressed again, and then we go to commercial. This was not one of Bray Wyatt's strongest moments. The other ones have been slightly comedic and or cryptic and understandable, and maybe this went completely over my head. My simplistic brain just didn't process it and realize that there was more depth to this. It wasn't entertaining. It was just kind of, what the F is this? It wasn't what the F is this in like a cool, intriguing, can't wait to break this down way. It was like, what the F is this in a, I don't even want to know what this is because it's kind of stupid. I mean, I hate to simplify it to that. This was probably one of the weakest segments of the Firefly Funhouse that there's been in the history of the Firefly Funhouse. So I'm going to scrap this one, chalk it up to just you're going to have a stinker and a clunker every once in a while, and I'm going to move on. But this didn't do anything for me. I enjoyed the first Muscle Man dance video. I thought it was funny. And there's a lot of real elements that Bray Wyatt put into these characters as to what people perceived him to be throughout his career. And Vince McMahon viewed Huskus, as kind of this fat slob who just overate, and which is hence why that character exists, right? So, anyway, I'm going to chalk this one up to moving on. How about that? I'm fine with, a clunker every once in a while. All right. Then we got Sonya Deville coming out with Mandy Rose, and Sonya said she'll be in action against Nikki Cross next, and Nikki comes out to the ring, but once again, Mandy gets on the mic and trashes Nikki for the way she looks, and then she looks like a plate of cold Thanksgiving leftovers, to an absolute zero crowd reaction. None. The crowd just goes, a Thanksgiving reference, okay. I guess the purpose was to get over the fact that Mandy's enamored with her own looks, which is supposed to inflate her ego, which makes people inherently dislike her. I'm assuming that's what it was, because nobody reacted, and I didn't care. I'm not of the belief that that's effective in a 2019 way to get somebody as a heel. But anyway, all right. So Nikki Cross ends up winning this match as a cradle pin for the 3 count. Sonya lost, so Nikki gets her, whatever. So Mandy and Sonya beat down Nikki after the match, and then Alexa Bliss runs in for the save. Nikki and Alexa give Mandy a double team DDT, and then they hug. So very good to see Alexa Bliss back. I would assume that Nia Jax is not far behind. People keep forgetting about Nia Jax and think Rousey's the next one to pop up. I would assume that Nia Jax is probably headed for Monday Night Raw, so just keep an eye out for her. Not a fan of her at all in terms of her offline or off-camera character, her true personality. Not a fan of her trying to pull the race card every chance she gets, and all that kind of nonsensical identity politic crap. But I do like her work. I like Nia Jax's work. I like her on the mic. I think she's a very natural, a good heel. So I dislike her, apparently, at least was from what she's shown me as a true person on Twitter, assuming, again, that's all I know of her, but also in terms of in the ring, she's a good heel, and her work is good for her size, all that stuff. So I think she's a natural born heel. I do not like Nia Jax as a face, so, but just keep an eye out for Nia Jax. I think she's closing in on a return sooner than later. All right. Drake Maverick was chatting backstage with Dana Brooke, and talks about one of his favorite holiday traditions with the mistletoe with Dana Brooke, and Dana shuts him down. Elias then pops up and plays a new song and talks about Maverick's wife finding out about trying to kiss another woman. So Elias is back. He says he's learned some new things and he's a new person. I don't know. I would assume he's face, but he's kind of flip-flop back and forth before he left too. So that whole stink of Shane McMahon's lackey, I think, is gone. So I'm ready for a refresh. So we got Alexa back. We've got Elias back, and I think both of them needed that time. So good. All right. Let's see. We got a Kofi Kingston and Big E coming to the ring talking about Thanksgiving. Good God. I will say, at least this episode of SmackDown did not present a food fight. And when I looked at last year's SmackDown, it was the New Day versus the Bar, and they had a food fight, and it was straight out embarrassing. And I know that Vince McMahon probably lost sleep over the fact that there was not a food fight in this show because he thinks that is somehow entertainment. And whoever talked him out of it, bravo, that there was no food fight here. I can live with the Thanksgiving references because that's just what it is. You can't ignore the holiday. But the food fight, I'm glad that it was kept under wraps, hopefully forever. I don't need to see it ever again, nor do I need to see it on 4th of July or any other holiday that you could think of using that for. Okay. So Kofi Kingston and Big E versus Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro, who answered the call to this open challenge for the Tag Team Championships after Sami Zayn came out and really trashed Black Friday and the evils of capitalism, and Sami says it's time to have tag champs who don't glorify things, and we've got a match. Boom. Fine. Sami Zayn again continues his brilliance, although I am extremely pro-capitalism, for those of you that care about my political stance on that. So I don't know if that was something that was driven from the brain of Sami Zayn, who thinks socialism is something that is a good thing, which has never been proven ever. But anyway, boy, I'm going to do a political podcast and then probably have getting death threats on a daily basis. All right. But I thought this was a decent match. So let me kind of take you through it here. Big E got the hot tag, cleaned house. Kofi came back in for the double team on Nakamura, but Cesaro broke it up. Kofi dumped Cesaro to the outside of the ring, looked for a dive, but Cesaro intercepted Kofi with an uppercut. Cesaro tagged in, hits a series of strikes on Kingston. Kofi connects with a kick, but then misses Trouble in Paradise. Cesaro dropped Kofi with the throat first over the top rope. Then Sami looked for a cheap shot, but the ref caught him. The ref ejected Sami from ringside, which I thought about this as it happened. What happens if the person that is ringside doesn't listen to the referee? What happens? Does the person who they are at the ringside supporting just get automatically disqualified? I mean, what happens if the person at ringside just goes, no, I'm going to stay here? What are the ramifications? What are the repercussions? What happens? Has anybody ever thought of that? Everyone just goes with, when the referee ejects somebody, that person always complies. It's always a heel, usually. And that person just goes, oh, damn, I'm not happy, but they do it anyway. But what are the repercussions? A fine? Does security come get them? What if they don't? I mean, I don't know. No one's ever done it. It's just thought about that. So anyway, Sami got ejected from ringside, not rejected. Cesaro is distracted, which led to Kofi hitting Trouble in Paradise on Cesaro, and Kofi gets the 3-count pin. So New Day celebrate with their tag titles at ringside and head to the back, and that was that. And then obviously the ending segment, the final segment of the show, is the one I opened with about Daniel Bryan getting pulled under the ring by the Fiend, and my whole thoughts on that as well. So overall, I would say SmackDown was okay. It had some bright spots. It had some good returns with Elias and Alexa Bliss. It certainly had some questionable things, of which I have mentioned many of, in terms of just what the hell is Roman Reigns doing as a babyface, and why are the fans cheering for him? Or at least, why are the fans who are booing him not cheering him? If you listen, and I'm more inclined to believe it's the latter, where it's those who are booing him are just quiet, and the people that are cheering him are louder, or at least it's perceived to be louder, and maybe he has gained some new fans, but the ones that are cheering him, you'll notice the pitch is still women and children. So that tells me that the men who were booing him just go, well, he's okay. He came back from cancer. What a great feel-good story. And they're just kind of sitting on their hands going, well, it's Roman. And they just, they'll react to big moves. But listen to the pitch. Listen to the pitch of the cheers. That tells me that the men are lying in wait, waiting to slap some sense into this creative nonsense of WWE keeping him as a face. I really believe that. I think the people are just, the men, particularly my age group, and even, I'd say 18 to 35 demo. I mean, I just barely fit in that, right? But I think even the younger men and those older than me are going, why are people cheering Reigns? I just don't understand the appeal of Roman Reigns as a face. Great worker, great family man, would be one of the top 3 on my roster, but not as a face. Not as a face. I don't know how to make it clear, so I know I'm being a little bit foggy, so hopefully you picked up on what I'm saying. But, alrighty guys, well again, thank you so much for listening. If you want that, take advantage of that sale. It starts tomorrow, where you can head on over to patreon.com and get yourself, even right now, maybe I'll activate the damn thing now. It's 9 o'clock at night. By the time you're listening to this, I'm assuming it's probably Monday morning. Head on over to patreon.com, get yourself the top tier of the of my feed, top tier of my page, and get yourself on this show. You can get yourself on this show and do your own podcast with me on a topic of your choosing. Get a shout out. Get on my Twitter feed. You will get an ad-free experience for the entire library, access to exclusive blogs, and more. So thank you guys so much for listening. Again, I'll be back with a co-host Tuesday to review Raw. Wednesday, Nostalgia. Thursday, Friday are AEW and NXT reviews. Saturday is back to your regularly scheduled programming of the week in review. So I hope you guys all enjoyed it. If you're in the Northeast, stay safe. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. We're into December. It's full swing ahead, full steam ahead into the Christmas holiday season, into New Year's, and then boom, into WrestleMania 36 season. So guys, I want to thank you so much for listening. Follow me on Twitter at the WWE Podcast. As always, I'll talk to you next time.